Hello lovely people, I'm Catherine and welcome to this week's Journal for All Seasons, Journaling for Self-Care. Now I've just finished, the full moon last week saw the end of the moon phase stitching, and if you've been following along you'll know that I've had some difficulties with the project. Basically I set out to stitch the phase of the moon every day, and I'll show you the completed ones in a minute if you haven't seen them. And I set myself the task of writing 3 words every day to describe my feelings during the day. Now the 3 words part has really caused a lot of issues, and I think I'm just going to let that go. I'm just going to chalk it up to experience, whatever. I did my 3 words every day. I didn't really feel that it was helpful. I felt it was quite blocking. So I'm now left with, I'll show you, I'm now left with a pile of tea bags, because every morning I was putting my little square of cloth under my morning tea bag with this rusty washer. So I've got my rusty washer, got a pile of tea bags, some of which I mummigami'd, and I shared that with you a few weeks ago. These have been mummigami'd, if you want to go back and look at that video if you didn't see it. And these are just dried and emptied of their tea. So there's another mummigami one. You see the difference in size apart from anything else, texture and colour and so on. So I've got those, and those 2 still need their tea coming out. They're the last 2. I think I've gone back into kind of artist brain. So rather than it being trying to express myself through words and, hard work, proper deep divey stuff, which many of you have assured me is a spiral process. It's not a linear process, and you don't have to do it, and don't beat yourself up, Catherine, and give yourself some grace and all that. So I'm going to do that, so thank you. So I've got my tea bags and my rusty washer. So I'm going back into my relative comfort zone of creativity, and I'm sure that's the same for many of us. I've got here, this was my little project basket I was using, and I've got a little bit of my darning cotton that I was using for my stitching left, and I've got some of my red, and I've got more of that somewhere else, my red silk that I was stitching my moon. I've got my white jelly pen that I was using to write my 3 words. So that was that. And then here's my actual journal. They didn't even look how I thought they'd look. I thought they'd look really cool and layered, and but they're all floppy and creased, and yeah, it's just generally distressing, really. I've also got these were my little paper templates that I used to stitch with a little heart-shaped paper clip, which I believe, I'm not sure, one of you lovely people sent me. So I want to commemorate keep those somehow, so I've got those, so I'll add those to my tea bags and my rusty washer as project memorabilia, if you like. So what I've decided to do, just make sure I've got you in the middle, and you're all wonky again, my Franken stand, which is 2 ring light stands, phone clamp things, duct taped together, is beginning to droop a little bit, but anyway I shall persevere, or invest in putting some more duct tape on it. And you don't need to know that. Sorry. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, so I didn't really, I love them as individual things, or why wouldn't I? The rust and the tea and the stitching and everything, and the way that, you actually hear it's waning from the 3rd quarter, and it becomes waning crescent, and that cyclical ritual nature of it. I did enjoy the stitching. It was really the words that kind of cast a shadow over everything else, and the way they look in here. So the way they look in here is easily solved, Catherine. You just take them out of there, okay? So I'm going to get them all out. My sticky tape wasn't very sticky anyway, so I'm going to get them all out, which will leave me with 3 words written in random places all over the pages. And then I will have, because I did it over 4 weeks, I did 4 double-page spreads because I was working on a spread per week. So then I'll have 4 spreads to deal with only those words written on. I could just leave that and say that's a, that bears witness to the process that there's 3 words. but I do think I want to work some more over it, and I do want to have a go at the writing that I talked about last time, the sort of asemic writing, but kind of a hybrid between asemic writing, which is writing with no meaning whatsoever, you just make the shapes, and kind of stream of consciousness writing, somewhere in the middle of that. And this comes from someone sent me how they do that. And this is very much inspired by that, and also my own love of asemic writing when I do mark making. So this is going to be quite a process. It's not going to be all this one video. So I think what I'm going to do is, the first thing I'm going to do is get these out, and I need to keep them in order. I could find, but this is the reverse of another one, and it's important to me that they stay in the right order. So I think I'm just going to start with the last one, which was this last waxing gibbous, because I started with the full moon, and I'm just going to make a stack of them in reverse order. The tape, now that I don't want it to stick, is going to be a pain to get off. You watch. So I'm just going to stack them, and I have I know exactly what I'm going to do with these, but that won't be this video. That will be a future video. But for now, I'm just going to get them off. Probably not very interesting to watch. And I have some vague ideas of what I'm going to do with these pages, but again, I'm just, rather than sit and work it all out, I just think it's nicer, hopefully for you as well as me, to, I'm not really worried if it pulls the gesso off the background. I can always re-gesso it if necessary. To watch my share my thought process as well. So that's the right order. So I need to start here and do this, and then I shall put a peg or something on them so they don't all blow away. I'm already feeling happier about them now that they're off this paper and in my hand. And I've done stitch journals for years. It's not about putting stitch things in a journal. It's absolutely not that. If you've been here a while, you'll have seen some of my stitch journals. And this is maybe, who knows why. It's probably a combination of things. And I don't think I really want to unpick it anymore. I just want to do something to make myself happy. That's quite cool, the way I've obviously flipped that down up before the ink's dry and it's printed on the back. My little pea brain was just logging that to my little pea brain. Self-deprecating humour. But I'm already feeling much happier about them now they're in my hand. But it's not that they're not in the book. It's not that I don't like putting stitch pieces in books. I do, was what I was trying to say. It's just something about this project. And I think it is important to kind of try and work out why things, when you like things and when you don't, isn't it? Because that's how we learn, and that's how we move forward, and that's how we hopefully stop repeating things that make us unhappy over again. But with this moon thing, I'm ready to just move on. It absolutely won't stop me doing ritual stitching, because I know that I love that. Was something about this one. Absolutely won't stop me putting stitch textiles into journals. It's not that. I don't think I'll make myself write 3 words every day again. I'm just going to take the tape with the cloth just for a change, and I'm going to waste all this tape, which already bothered me to use it in the first place. This is a video of me moaning. Try not to moan. And that one's as well. And so then once I've got all these off and got rid of all this nasty tape, another person suggested, and I did think about it briefly, gluing them down so that would achieve 2 things. It was a great idea and a great suggestion, and thank you if that was you and you're watching. It would have achieved the annoying flippy floppy, or it would have solved the annoying flippy floppy nature, because they would have been glued down flat. and it would have hidden the 3 words. So I would have, it's kind of harking back to, if you watched the flip through last week, the first week when I wrote all the stuff, you know, negative stuff, and gessoed over it. And I know there's many different ways that people do that. You write and you burn it, or you write and you tear it up, or, you know, there's many different ways, isn't there? Well, this would have been the writing and then the gluing over it. So you've gone through the process of the writing, and then you've hidden it, but it's there and it's been done. So that is nearly the last one. Started off so well when I see these words. I was all chill and zen and happy. And I don't think I'm any clearer about, I mean, obviously it's only 1 month. I don't think I'm any clearer about, does the full moon affect my mood? Does the full moon bring me down or not? I think you'd have to do that for a year, really. And I'm not doing it for a year. Because other stuff happens, doesn't it? It's, you know, when you do scientific experiments, there are, what do they call them, variables, and you have to have a control and all that for it to be scientific. If you just do 1 month and you say, oh, I was sad or angry around the full moon, so the full moon makes me sad and angry. No, there could have been a million other things in your life that happened to make you sad and angry that day. You can't start seeing patterns just, you know, with such a small, I think they call it p-values in statistics, but I don't really know anything about that other than the term p-values. So I'm not going to go into statistics nerdery. Right, so there's my little stack of moons. I like that. I like them. And I have had many different ideas of what to do with them, and I've decided on one, which I will share with you in probably a couple of weeks, possibly in the Slow Stitch Friday video, because it will be a stitchy thing. We'll see. But anyway, there's those. So I'm going to put those safely to one side. I'm going to clip them together in some way, or put them in a box so their order can't get mixed up. I might even be really persnickety and number them. You know, put a little piece of paper with a number. I don't know. I'll put them safe is the bottom line. So now I've got this. So now I've got 4 spreads. And first of all I have to get all this, which is now stuck to itself. You're probably all shouting at me to not do that. So I'm not going to bore you with me sitting here picking all the tape off. But I do just want to get these off so that I can... No, I won't. So I think what I'm going to do to start with, once I've got the tape off, and I will have to do that on my own, is get my white gel pen, and I'll just show you here just to give you an idea, and just write. Now, like I think I've said before, I haven't really been great at written journaling, and it does kind of distress me in a way, as I talked about last week, that I'm not. So I feel I should be. I'm going to should myself. But this way of writing, the stream of consciousness writing, I can do. Because if you sit with a blank page and a pen in your hand and you don't know what to write, you either just make writing, asemic writing, you know. But even when I do asemic writing, I kind of think of the length of, you know, vary the lengths of the words that aren't words. Or you can just start writing, I don't know what to write. And I'd normally just say that in my head, I don't know what to write. And then that might morph into, how am I feeling today? You know? And you just go on and on like that, writing. And then your thoughts do what your thoughts do. But it's something about the action of your hand. Don't do this if you're really struggling, if you're, you know, without professional guidance. Maybe I should have said that. If you've got really, really deep stuff, if you've got real issues, I wouldn't suggest doing this unless you really feel it could be helpful. You don't want to go deep diving into stuff willy-nilly, shall we say. But I feel up to it. You know, I've done a little bit in another book. So I'm going to do asemic writing or stream of consciousness or a hybrid of the two, just to blur these words. I thought of gessoing again, but I think I'm just going to scribble, write, whatever, over all of these 4 pages. Get the tape off and do all that. If I made you watch that, you'd all be asleep with boredom after about 10 minutes. So I'm going to go and do that off camera, and when I've done that I'll come back and talk a little bit about what I might do next. And like I said, I probably will split this into a couple of weeks worth of videos. Okay, so I'll be back in a bit, possibly tomorrow morning. Okay, so I've done my stream of consciousness writing across, I've done 3 pages. And here and there some of the background words show through, but that's fine. On this one I wrote this way, and I actually showed it to Joey and asked him if anything was legible, and he could pick out some things because I knew what it said, so the chances were that I would see. So anyway, he said there was something still readable, so I went back and wrote again going this way, and some of it was my thoughts coming out, and sometimes, you know, if my thoughts kind of dried up, I just carried on making asemic movements with my, you know, word-like movements with my hands. But yeah, so I just think as a visual thing it looks cool against the black. I'm not sure I got anything from the process in particular in this instance because Joey was sitting here, and you know, and also I will talk about that more as I go along, about different ways of dealing, and you know, because I don't want people to feel that you have to do things a certain way. There's been some comments made by people who feel uncomfortable, but I'll get going, otherwise I'll be here for hours again. So what I want to do now, I showed you all the things I have from the project. I've put the cloth to one side, that's for something else, but I want to do something with these little templates that I've pinned onto here. So I'm going to put my journal to one side for now. I think I'll keep the paper clip here as well with it. That's just all part of it as far as I'm concerned. Just stick it on there like that. So I put my journal to one side. So I want to zhuzh these little templates up a bit. Zhuzh them up. Sorry for the clang. So basically just, sorry about the messy pile of paper. I maybe need to invest in, or not invest in, go to my drawer and get another piece of brown paper, because this is the piece that I use, but it's got all kinds of stuff written on it, and I'm not sure you can, I don't know, maybe that's better. What has it got written on it? Oh, it's just quotes that I've used in former videos so that I didn't remember them, but I hope that's not unpleasant to look at. So I've got numbers on, and do I want them number side up, or do I want, look at what it was, scrap, so yeah, let's have them number side up. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is splatter them with gold. So I'm just going to lay them out close together. I'll get my splatter guard, which is a bit of cardboard, so I don't splatter gold up my window. Sorry if it made it go blurry, so it probably will make it go dark for a minute, because it's between me and the window. Got my lovely gold paint from Amy. I can open it, and I've got my water. So, you know, if you've kept your templates and you want to do this, then you can just decorate them in any way you like, really, you know, or just use them as they are. But I just felt like a bit of gold, so I'm going for gold. Going for gold. That used to be a very bad quiz, well, a quiz program on the television here in Britain called Going for Gold. Does anybody remember that? I think, was it Henry Kelly, the presenter? Gosh, how do these things stay in your brain and you don't even know you know them, and then something reminds you of them? Do you know what I mean? And things come out. Right, let's do some gold splatters on these little templates. Might need a bit more water. It does take a little while to get this gold paint working, but once it does, oh my, it's beautiful. There we go, that's better. Because these are going to need to dry now, of course, before I can do anything else with them. But yes, I have felt myself, when I first started this year of self-care through the journal with the mixed media and everything, that was the way it was done. I'm doing air quotes again. And that I should, and that was the proper way, and that was the only way to move forward. And I'm still splattering on my desk because my splatter guard is not in the right place, and all that kind of thing. So that's little Lola barking, the new puppy over there. And I think I have kind of felt that, and I think I've been rolling along with the journal, doing my arty stuff, looking for my quotes, you know, and all that, and relating it to myself and my feelings, yes, but in a kind of, not an abstract way, that's not the right word, but kind of using my, I never remember which side of brain is creative and which side is, you know, the practical. The splatters on the background are nicer than the splatters on the moon, but anyway, I think that's enough, apart from that bit there. What was I saying? Yeah, I have been, I think I have been authentic, I hope I've been authentic, but it's been quite, I don't know how to put it into words. It's been kind of creative art coming from that angle rather than from my inner being, and then how do I express that in the art, if that makes sense. And I think doing it, and I thought this moon project, I thought, oh yeah, you know, a stitch project over a certain number of days, done that not a million times before, I'm prone to exaggeration, as you know, done that many times before. Write something, what, you know, what can I do for the writing thing? I thought about a haiku, but then I thought maybe that, you know, I've already done that and you might not like that, and I thought, what would be simple? Just write 3 words. I thought that would be simple for me and for you. And as it has turned out, we all know that some of us, me included, have been struggling with it. So I'm very grateful to this moon project for teaching me that, and also for kind of clarifying in my mind, and also not only in my own mind through my own thought processes, but also through many of the lovely comments from you all, that there is more than one way to process. You don't have to process every little emotion, like I think I said either last time or earlier in this video, I don't remember. You don't have to cross every T and dot every I. A few of you have talked about analogies such as putting emotions or difficult feelings in boxes, and you don't have to look at it unless you want to or you need to. A few people have said that they can just live in the moment, and even that makes them feel a bit of a phony saying that, or a fraud. I think none of us are frauds or phonies. We're all doing ourselves, aren't we? And I don't think anybody should say to anyone, this is the way to process your emotions. This is, you know, step by step, this is how you do it. Because I think it varies from person to person, and I think it varies even within us from emotion to emotion. You know, some things you might be able to just let go, like they're a puff of smoke, poof, it's gone. Other things might stay with you forever, and no amount of processing is going to get rid of them, or, you know, flip them into something you can deal with, and you just have to try and keep it in a box. And other things you can work through. And then the ways of working through, again, can vary from person to person, and they can vary from emotion to emotion within a person. So some emotions you may want to write about, some emotions you may want to art journal about, some emotions you might get through in your slow stitching without even realising. Often when I'm in that Zen stitching state, sometimes my mind is relatively clear. I wouldn't say empty. Other times things come into my head, you know, random thoughts not related to the stitching, and I let them stay, or I find ways to distract myself from them. You know, it's so complex, and if only you could say to every single person who's struggling, here's a step-by-step how you deal with it, and then you'll be fine. But it's not how it works, is it? We all know this. So I, for my part, sitting here talking to you, not really knowing what I'm talking about, only sharing my own experiences and my own thought processes, and aiming above all to comfort and help you and not upset and distress you. I read all of your comments, I respond, you know, here and there in writing, you know, with a message. I always heart your comments if I've seen them. So if I've hearted your comment, it means I've read it. I'm saying this because the comments sometimes there can be, you know, and please don't stop commenting. Please don't stop commenting, because I love reading them. But many apologies if I don't answer you, but I really try, and especially if it's you know, a really kind of in-depth comment, I try and have conversations with you, and because I like it, because I for me it's part of it, it's part of the community. That's why I do that. I don't feel an obligation or anything like that. I'm just waiting for my moon. I'm just spinning my wheels while my moon dries. No, I'm not just spinning my wheels. Yeah, there's things I needed to say, and I think I've said them. So yeah, I mean, that I've said it before, I would never have realised in a million years when I started this channel that we would find this community together, and it certainly has helped me more than I can express, and I know it's helped many of you as well. And let's all be grateful for that together, but at the same time there's no judgment here. You do you is my mantra. And that applies to everything. That applies to whether you're a neat stitcher of straight lines or whether you go wibbly wobbly wonky all over the place. And that also applies to, oh yes, I can do a beautiful expressive art journal page, and that's how I process my emotions, to someone who says, I can't do that, I have no desire to do that, and now I feel bad because I feel that's how I should be. Or someone who says they write several pages in their journal every day, and then other people feel, oh, I should do that. No, there's none of that here. We're all here together, we're all on our own journeys, and yeah, I just wanted to say that. I just wanted to reassure anybody that's feeling like a phony, or imposter syndrome they call it, don't they? I can talk about that at some future point in regards to stitching, because I know that is a thing, but not today. I've whittled enough. I think they're more or less dry. Oh, maybe not really. So the next thing I was going to do is draw on them a bit. So I've got some gold pens, and I've got, I want them to show up against my background a bit. I mean, I don't really mind if they don't, it's process and all that. So if I put that one on there as an example, it does show up, doesn't it? But I do want to, no, they are still very wet. I think I'm going to pause and go and have a cup of tea. It's always the answer to everything, go and have a cup of tea. And I'll wait for them to dry, and then I'll come back and do some colouring on them, and show you how I'm going to put them in the journal. And also, just to say, in the light of everything I just whittled on about, I've gone back to my handy dandy, trusty little box of found words. And there's some vintage playing cards in there that somebody sent me. Can't remember who, but aren't they lovely? And I found, ironically, oh no, it's not 3 words, it's actually 4 words, but it's on 3 bits of paper. These are just torn from magazines. So I found this just getting words from magazines and then looking through this tin, and don't get millions because it's a nightmare then to look through them. But then just going through this and seeing what words jump out at me. I mean, that might not suit you, but I personally have found that an easy way to express something, and I've done that quite a lot in my journal in the year to date. So that's something I've discovered. I mean, I didn't, lots of people do it, and I tried it and found I liked it. So that's stuck. Things stick or they don't stick, and if they don't stick, just let them go. They're not for you. They might be for others, but that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you if it doesn't stick with you. But that for me has stuck, as has looking up quotes, because I've always been one of those people, apparently I'm carrying on wittering, who, when new songs come out, back in the day, I'm not going to make any derogatory remarks about modern music and old music, but I kind of did there. But back in the day when a new song came on the radio, or when I bought a new record, vinyl, that's back in that day, I would sit with pencil and paper and write the lyrics. Sometimes they came, didn't they, with the lyrics in the record cover. But if they didn't, or if you heard it on the radio, I would sit and write the words. I always wanted to know the words to songs by heart, and poetry as well. It's the same thing, I guess. So I think that feeds into being able to go and look for quotes that are relevant, that say what you want to say. And I don't think it's even borrowing someone else's words. It's when they resonate with you like that. And I don't think it's any reflection on you can't write your own words, so you have to steal someone else's. That would be a really harsh way of putting it. No, because you make the emotional and intellectual choice to take those words because they speak to you, and that's what those words are for. That's why people write songs and poems and novels, for us to read them and get something from them. So, you know, that's another way. So if you can't write yourself, then I don't think there's any harm in all those other things. And I apparently can't write 3 words a day. It's not the 3 words, it was what it was attached to. I'm being a bit flippant now, I know. But yeah, and if you don't want to do any of it, if you don't want to journal, if you just are one of those people who can just let things go, then that's you. You do you, and don't feel bad. I mean, I think maybe some of us might even think we've got something to learn from you, that, you know, letting things go. Because I think I've said before, if something's there and it's bothering me, then I want to try and deal with it if it keeps coming back. But there are things in my past that I haven't processed, in inverted commas, that don't bother me anymore because of the passing of time. I never think about it, or nearly never, and maybe something comes up and reminds you and you get a little pang or something, or a feeling of anger or sadness over something in your dim and distant past because something triggers you, as they say. But then a moment later it's gone and you move on. But I personally, like I have said repeatedly, I'm not trained, I'm not a therapist, I'm not, you know, and if you're really struggling, I would always advise to seek the advice of a professional. But for those things that we all have, that emotional baggage that we all have, if the thing is in the past and mostly stays there, then I'm not going to go digging for it, you know? That's me. I'm only speaking for myself. And maybe that resonates with some of you as well. So I'm now going to pause and go and have a cup of tea while my gold paint dries, and then I'll be back again to put these in my journal. Okay, I finished my tea, but there was a lorry outside and it was squeaking enormously. Apologies if you can hear it again. It's really warm here, although it's quite early in the morning, and I've got the window and the door open. Anyway, I think my gold is dry. Yes. So now I'm just going to colour them in a little bit. I don't really know how. I'm just maybe, I don't know, this is just a normal graphite pencil. I'm just doodling. I'm just scribbling. Could do with it being a bit softer, really. Have I got a softer one? This is a 2B, I thought. 2B. To be or not to be? That is the question. Sorry. I'm going to do Shakespeare now. 10B. Oh, here it comes. Okay, I stopped talking and carried on squiggling because that lorry was awful, squeaking and bumping. I think it's emptying the garden waste bins that people have, you know. So all I've done is scribbled on with my soft graphite pencil, and then I did some more squiggly lines with my gold felt tip, and now I'm doing some finer gold squiggly lines with my gold gel pen. But you know, you can see I'm just squiggling. Being a bit careful because it's knocking some of the paint off. Scribbling, to me, whether you call it mark making or whatever you call it, I mean, this is literally scribbling. Whether you make more definite marks or whatever is also a way of expressing yourself. I guess Asemic writing is mark making as well, and I do that if I'm mark making on cloth or mixed media work. I do word type shapes, and that's all it is, you know. Don't be put off by the fancy name. Wendy at the Unexpected Gypsy, who I've mentioned many times, I love watching her videos, calls it seemingly meaningless writing. Seemingly meaningless, and I like that expression. Right, that's enough scribbling. I have this lilac watercolour pencil as well. I don't know if it's, oh, maybe a bit. But yeah, I don't want to knock the gold off too much. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll stop there. And stop. So now I'm going to get them, gather them up. This is going to make lovely collage fodder by the time I'm finished using it. I've also got my, oh, let's get this back again actually. I don't like advertising that company. They get enough without me joining in. I'm going to ink the edges because Because I am. Because no reason. Because I can and I want to. With my little dauber that Maria sent me. I just thought maybe they would stand out more against the page. But you see these little templates, and I've gone onto it a bit more than I meant to, but what I will do in that case is go deliberately onto it a bit more here and there so it looks deliberate rather than that I made a whoopsie. Yeah, these little templates, which were a tool that served a purpose, have now become art materials. And for me, apart from not wanting to waste even these little scraps of paper if I can help it, also, I've got gold on my ink now. Also, they're part of the story of the project. That's why I wanted to keep these and the tea bags and all the other things. Storytelling. Storytelling for me is a huge part of what makes slow stitch and not just hand stitching. The storytelling aspect. And I know many of you who are following along with the coverlet of comfort have, if you didn't already have that awareness of that, have seen the value of that, seen the beauty of that, expressing yourself through stitching. And it's not necessarily, stop knocking the gold off. It's not necessarily expressing yourself, it can be expressing a story that you want to tell, about something else. And I think that is a big part of art as well, for me. That old chestnut about what's art and what's craft. What makes art, what turns craft into art. I think there are many answers to that question, but for me, one of the answers is that art tells a story. It goes beyond. Art doesn't have to be beautiful, it might be ugly even, but it can still be art if it tells a story. And again, this process, I just love inking things, just for the process. And I also love turning these little scrap paper to start with into something that looks more beautiful, more than it was before I started. Especially this one that I used every day, the full circle, because I use these templates in my stitching generally. It's much more fragile, especially around the edge where it's been pinned many times, 28 times to be precise. It's almost perforated, so I have to be careful that it doesn't tear, but if it does tear I'll just glue it back together. Nearly there, 2 more. Okay, that's all the inking done, so I'll put that away and get my journal back in and decide how I'm going to arrange them on the page. So they're numbered so I know which way round they go. So I've got 1. I wonder if I could kind of do them as a circle. So the odd numbers will go at the 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. So 3 will go there. Is that right? 1, 3, 5, yeah, 7. I need to move down a bit, I think, and so then 4, 6, 2 and 8. Something like that, and I'm going to just make them more of an oval, I think, because my page is oval. I could go across, but I'm between 2 signatures, so it's not really feasible. Something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those on, and then I'll be back to tell you my words. I think I'm going to use my medium glue. You could use PVA or Mod Podge or probably glue stick even, but just this paper is the artist canvas, and I know from experience that glue stick doesn't work very well on it. So anyway, I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll be back when I've glued. Okay, I've glued those on. It's more or less straightish. and I really like the way that looks. And so I've got my words. Now originally I was thinking of putting the words over here, but I think I'll put them here in the middle. It feels more appropriate. So, sorry, they had tea on them because they're in the little jar where I was emptying my tea bags. So they are choosing. Whoops. Whoops. Oh no, that's the middle word. Too difficult. I might take off two and just have difficult. Then it is 3 words. Yes. Words. I'll take off the word too. Carefully. Put it back in my tin. You never know, it might be useful. Difficult choosing words. So what I feel is I'm going to ink those. Of course I am. And that one's already inked. Apart from where I cut it. Is it? No, it's not. So I've taken my feeling about it is that I've taken my difficulty in choosing words and turned it to my advantage. Or turned it into, you know, a little art piece, a little art journal piece. And now I feel I can put it to rest, you know, I feel much happier about it. I feel that it's reached a satisfying conclusion, shall we say. If that makes sense. And I've got a little record of my moon project and that aspect of it that I had difficulty with. This one's really wonky, which was choosing the words. So they're inked. I'll go ahead and stick those on. I'll start middle one. Okay, so there we go. And yeah, that's brought me enormous comfort to do that. And even though it's not sticking properly, it's this weird artist paper and the bits of gold are coming off. But yeah, I'm just so happy now to have done that. That has, yeah, just resolved something for me and made me accept that that was that, and it's ended in something that's pleasing me. So my plan now, I guess, in subsequent weeks is to go on and do some more with the rest of the pages, and I'll share that obviously as I go along and my thoughts as they evolve. So this moon project, at one point I wanted to get it done with because I wasn't happy with it, but now I'm going further with it in a way that's comforting and pleasing and helpful and so on. So I've learnt something from that, and I'm very grateful to you all who have commented and watched and shared and helped me with that process, and I hope that it's maybe helped some of you as well. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to you joining me next time for more wittering. I'm just going to start saying that from now on, I think, for more wittering and various tales of different kinds. Lots of love. Bye bye. Kisses. Bye bye.